Okay, hello everybody. So my name is Adam, and I am basically the creator of Chat Engine. So the website, the NPM component, the REST APIs, everything under the sun with regards to this tool. And the reason I'm making the video today is because I'm seeing a lot of great content on YouTube using the Chat Engine tool. You know, how to build Facebook Messenger, how to build Teams, how to build, your own chat from scratch. And while these videos are great, they're JavaScript tutorials that happen to use Chat Engine as a tool, but it seems like there's more interest in learning about the Chat Engine framework itself. What is it? What does it have to offer? And how can you really use it to ultimately build whatever you want? And that's what I'm going to try to address in the video today. And how we're going to do that is we're basically going to go through the docs very casually together. I'm going to explain every feature that Chat Engine has to offer, and then we can cross-reference each feature with an example that I built so that you can see it working in action pretty easily. The video that we're going to make today, or the tutorial that we're going to make, is we're just going to redo Slack. I spent like an hour building it from scratch in an airport, which is pretty great because it shows you how you can build a pretty powerful chat experience using the APIs and UI tools that I've provided within a matter of minutes. So there's a few things I just want to say before we get started. So clearly we know what we're going to do. We're going to learn Chat Engine, the features, see an example so you can build whatever you want. But there are a few things worth noting. One, I don't want this video to be work. I'm just sitting on a couch. I'm casually explaining it. This should be more entertainment and satisfying a curiosity than anything. You don't have to have your IDE out. We're not going to obsess over every line of code and every semicolon. So the video is going to be very chill. The second thing is that Chat Engine's a work in progress. So I've been working on it for about a year, and we ship things frequently, right? So we're adding features, pulling away features, refining bugs, tweaking the UI. We're doing lots and lots of stuff, and we're very responsive to user feedback. So that gets me to my next point. If you have any questions, concerns, bug findings, whatever the case may be, you can open a Stack Overflow with the Chat Engine topic, which I'm subscribed to, so I'll be able to answer your questions. We have a GitHub issues page, which you could open issues under, and I'll link that in the description below. And then last but not least, we have a support chat. So right here, I actually use Chat Engine to build like an intercom equivalent. You can use this to chat to me directly right within the website. So if you have any questions or concerns that are a bit more private in nature, you can ask me right here. Great. And last but not least, if you like the video or you want to see more things like it, maybe you want like a better tutorial or various topics or go into more depth technically, just comment that. We can figure it out. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to make this experience as good as possible for everybody. Cool. So with that in mind, let's get right into it. So what is Chat Engine? Chat Engine is, simply put, a UI kit and a set of APIs to be able to build any chat experience in minutes. Right? But what we aim to be is more like a React framework, a comprehensive framework to build anything using chat very quickly. So that's what we do. But a better question is, why did we build this? So when I was a freelancer, I was hired to build a chat app for the first time for somebody. It cost the client about $20,000. It took about 6 months of work. And by the end of all that effort and money spent, the chat experience was pretty basic and didn't work that well. Now, yes, I was a worse programmer then, but the real main takeaway is that building an actually pleasant chat experience is very, very hard. The state management, the UI, the APIs, the reliability, the animations that have to go into a tool like that are actually really, really difficult to build. And one person shouldn't just do this on their own. They should really be leveraging a framework to be able to build this effectively and be able to compete with like Telegram, Facebook Messenger, and all these other great apps out there. Now, the second time I was hired to build chat, I knew that I wanted to use a tool instead. And there were really two worlds. There's the basic low-level primitive world like socket.io. While they give you a really great set of APIs that are reliable, they're very, very basic back-end driven tools. So you have to kind of build the whole UI yourself, which is actually most of the work. And then there's the other side of the equation, which is like Stream and Sendbird. And while they're very comprehensive tools and provide UI kits, they start at like $400 a month. So I can't really afford that as a freelancer. Not can't really, I just can't. So what I try to do with Chat Engine is just try to find that beautiful middle ground, right? Like try to provide those low-level primitives and those UI kits out of the box, and then have, a Heroku-like business model where it's as free for as long as you want, but if you want to upgrade into more users or extra security or production specific features, then the plans start at like a couple bucks a month and go from there. But really, this isn't a pitch on the business model. What I'm trying to say is that we provide ideally the best of both worlds, the primitives, the APIs, as well as the UI kits, and then we aim to be as fair as possible to bootstrap developers and students like you and I. So that's the what we do and why we do it. I think the next best part, sorry, I'm drinking water. Whew. I think the next best part is that we go through what Chat Engine has to offer and we cross-reference this with an example that I've already built out right here. So the first thing, at the highest level, and this is the most popular feature, Chat Engine provides you an NPM component that you can put into your application, put some auth props into, and you get an entire chat app right out of the box. So you can see that right here. All we do is we import Chat Engine, we declare it, we pass in some props, so the project ID, a username and password, ideally more secure than this, and what you get is a complete chat app right out of the box. You get various chats, you get some icebreakers, kind of like Telegram, you have the ability to put in messages, HTML-based forms, the ability to manage users, like you get a whole lot of code, basically cloning Facebook Messenger with this much right here. So very, very powerful right out of the bat. But it's very rare that somebody just wants to pull this component in and be done with it. More often than not, people really need to customize the chat experience per the peculiarities of their app, right? So it might be an online community where you have one member that can only add other users or even only send messages, right? It might be like a message board or something. Or it could be like Snapchat, where after you send a message and a little time passes, the message gets deleted, right? So there's going to be some logic that you're probably going to want to add into your chat experience, which is unique to your app. And there are various ways we can accommodate. So going back, we have a few tools to help customize the UI. So first of all, we have render functions, we have components, and we also have customizing the CSS. And ideally, using these three things here, you should be able to customize the entire Chat Engine experience to whatever you want it to be. So let's start with render functions. What render functions do is replace part of that chat experience that we made with whatever you want. So if you want to rewrite the chat list, for instance, and you want to make it look more like Slack, where you have channels and direct messages and a different form where you can create different types of chats for each group, you would be able to basically use the render chat list function and then return your own column with your own JSX and logic in it, so you could write basically whatever you want in there. So I can show you an example. If I just click Command Z a few times, you'll see here we have quite a lot of extra props that we've passed in, and I'll just isolate the render chat list one right here. So within this example, I used render chat list, and I actually bring in my own custom chat list that I built. And if we click save, what you're gonna see is basically I actually rewrote the entire chat list on the left-hand side to look a lot like Slack. So if we actually dive into the code, you'll see just right at the JSX, we have like a chat group for channels, we have a chat group for direct messages, we have a function that renders all of the direct messages, we have a function that renders all of the group chats, and we also have a form and a button within each one of these group titles to basically create a new chat, whether it be a group chat channel or direct message. And you can see that here, right? If I create a new group and I call it sales, voila, you get a sales channel right out of the box. So an entirely custom experience that you built yourself, just passing into one of these render functions. Just another example to try to bring it home, you can do this for even granular parts of the experience. So if you want to re-render a message bubble or the chat form, or the header at the top. You're going to be able to do these things yourself. So a good example for customizing the chat messages is, let's say that you want to make the chat messages look like Slack again. Like you want the avatars to be square and then the text to just go all the way across, and every person's message look a lot more the same on the left-hand side, unlike this Facebook Messenger experience. You're going to be able to do that. All you have to do is, again, use the render message bubble function and perhaps the render sending messages function. And we're going to be able to do that right here, right? So if we bring in these props and we go into the UI again, I rewrote the JSX for the messages. All I have to do is basically take the arguments that we provide in the docs, pass them into a new component that I built myself, and basically render the JSX with a square avatar on the left-hand side, a little bit of stuff about the sender on the top, and then just render the text right across the middle of the page right here. And you get a very Slack-like experience. But the point I'm trying to get across here is that with these render functions, you're going to be able to swap out any part of this UI and put in whatever JSX you want to really tailor the experience to your business, your app, your idea, which is very, very powerful. The second important point is that we have a suite of components. Like Lego, you can really build your own chat experience from scratch yourself, right? So we allow you to just pull in particular parts of this experience and rebuild chat experiences from scratch. So a good example, and the most popular component to pull in, would be the chat feed in the middle. If you just want to put a chat feed in the comments section of a YouTube video, or like I did, just put a chat feed in the corner of your website like a customer support chat, all you need to do is just connect a socket, bring in this component here that you can import, and perhaps put it in a wrapper that we provide. And within 10, 12 lines of code, you're going to have that chat feed that will be able to connect, in this case, any user of the website with me directly, very, very conveniently, and it's reliable, all the 9 yards, very awesome. I can just show you another example of this. So I have a render chat header function, and within it, I actually pull in the chat header component, right? So you can see here, I pull in the chat engine context and the chat engine header. If I comment out the chat engine header, you're going to see here that there's nothing at the top, right? I bring in a custom render function with some JSX that's not showing anything, but if I bring that chat header component back in, you can see here that it comes back up and we get that channel title and activity data right at the top, which we bring in through the tool. So those are two examples of using NPM components, right? Just pulling in a chat feed at the bottom right of the web page here, and also within a render function, bringing that component we're replacing back in with some extra logic on top, which is pretty cool. And then the last thing in terms of customizing the UI is just custom CSS. So we show you how to change the fonts, remove scroll bars if need be, and then we just give a disclaimer that everything has a chat engine hook within the CSS that you can link into. And I can show you an example of that. So right here, you can see that we have various class and IDs that say CE dash and then whatever. Those are chat engine specific. So if we comment these out, which you can do right now, you can see the messages look a little blue. You know how the existing experience was very Facebook Messenger in nature? That's that blue that we're using right here. But in this situation, because it's Slack, I added some custom CSS to make everything purple, right? So now the message that you send, the button is purple, and the header details at the top of the page are purple, using the CSS hooks right within our CSS file, just linking into those pieces and adding CSS on top. So, but again, we talked about a lot, but between the render functions, the components you can pull in, and the CSS you can add on top, you should be able to rebuild the chat experience within that NPM component we provide very, very easily. And these are the main tools that I used to change that Facebook Messenger experience into a Slack experience within an hour, sitting down very casually. Now, if you want to get more granular there are a few things that we provide. So one, we provide a suite of event hooks and also web hooks. So we'll get into what these are right now. These basically link events that happen within the chat experience to invocable code that could either update your server or run stuff right within the client side. So you can see within event hooks here, since the chat engine component has a socket that subscribes to the server, we can invoke functions whenever a particular event occurs, right? So when a new chat gets created, when somebody reads a message or a person gets added or removed, or a new message comes in, what we can do is basically invoke custom functions to allow you to run code and make your app work the way you want it to. So a good example would be, let's say that you're trying to make a Snapchat app, and anytime a new message comes in, you basically run some code to delete that message after 60 seconds. That's a very common use case within, Snapchat. After you read a message, you might want to delete it right after. You would be able to use this on new message hook, and whenever a new message gets created, you could invoke a function, identify that chat, that message of interest, and delete it after 60 seconds. So pretty cool. I don't have an example right within the UI, but what we could do is perhaps we can make one right now, right? We could just do console log, and then we can console log the chat ID and the message accordingly. And when that new message gets created, we can hop back into the example and send a message 123. And we look at the console logs. You're going to guess it. We are invoking that console log function and basically logging all the relevant info. But you could write whatever you want. Instead of this console log function, it could be whatever you want under the sun. So very important conceptually. The other thing that we support in terms of event-driven code invocation is webhooks. So you can actually connect your server to our server. So whenever a particular event occurs, like a message gets sent, a user gets created, a user gets deleted, you can basically create an API request that will go to your server, and we'll send all the relevant info over regarding that event. And then you can basically synchronize your user base with our user base. You could back up every message that gets sent for compliance purposes. Basically completely sync your server with what we have running in Chat Engine, so that as a full stack developer, you're completely in ties with what's going on the back end here. Pretty cool. And then last but not least, if you want to get really, really down to the low level primitives, we support socket documentation as well as REST API documentation. So we have this page here, rest.chatengine.io. It supports a suite of APIs, some private APIs, some public APIs. And basically, you're going to be able to do whatever you want with these APIs. Create users, get or create users, destroy users if you need, create chats, create messages, read messages, indicate that you're typing, the whole 9 yards. The whole Chat Engine experience uses these APIs, so you'll be able to rebuild an entire experience of the same quality just using this. But then again, the UI is going to save you a lot of time if you use it. And then finally, we do support sockets, right? Sockets are used under the hood. So we have a socket component that you could just pass in the authentication props into, and then you'd be able to subscribe to the server and get data whenever those events occur, which is pretty powerful. What we can do is actually show you an example of the APIs occurring. So if we go back here, you see that there's a get or create user. This is a pretty powerful API actually. You send a username in secret. If this username exists, we return the user. If the username doesn't exist in the user base, a user gets created. So what we can do here is go within the user list. So I'll just do this, go within the user list. So you should be able to see all these users created. So Adam, Mandy, Zach, Paul, John, and Wendy. And you'll see that Darcy has not been created yet because this function here goes through all those users and gets or creates them. So if we go back to this chat engine experience, I don't know where it is exactly. I think it should be here. Cool. If we create a direct message between Adam Lamore and Wendy, this should work. Unless the user didn't get created. Oh, perfect. There we go. Okay. So we have a chat with Wendy Chin, but you'll also realize that if we do Darcy Manning, there's no way that this is going to work. This user does not exist, right? So we could probably see the console logs. It's going to be 400 because this user is invalid. Makes sense. So what we can do is basically uncomment this user, and what you're going to see when it re-renders, you can see this 201. Basically, we created that last user. This function ran again. We mapped through every user within this list and either got them from the database or recreated them from scratch. And now if we go back into this DM thing here and we type Darcy Manning, voila, that Darcy Manning DM is available. And I can say hello and send them a message, right? So pretty powerful. So yeah, this is the chat engine experience in a nutshell, basically providing you a bunch of primitives as well as a suite of UI tools to be able to basically rebuild this entire chat experience from scratch. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. If you have any questions or concerns, you can definitely reach out, Stack Overflow, GitHub, whatever the case may be, and basically let's just start a discussion to see what we need to build in Chat Engine to make it better. But that's conceptually the tool under the hood. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy and you can let me know what to do next. But yeah.